Well, here we are. It is August 12th, 2025, and we're going to talk today about a sale that's coming up on the 21st of August down at LeLand Little in North Carolina. They've got a nice sale put up together. A lot of Japanese stuff in this. So if you're a Japanese buyer, you want to pay pretty close attention to this auction. There's some very choice pieces tucked in here. There's some Chinese things as well, and there's a couple of really interesting Korean wares in the sale, including a moon jar. So we're going to go through them. I'll go through some of the highlights, but they're posted on the global pages over on Bitamount. You can, of course, go to Little site and log in and just do your buying there and save 4 or 5% on the buyer's premium and so forth. But it's a good-looking auction. I touched on it Friday in the weekly video, but I wanted to come back and sort of take a deeper dive. As you know, a lot of you know, I'm sort of a pretty big fan of Japanese objects, and I know a number of you are too, so I think this might be interesting. At any rate, we're going to start over here on this. One of the pieces that caught my eye was this, a very nice pair of Japanese mixed metal bronze sleeve vases. They're sort of like brush pots. They're about 7 7/8 inches tall. They're beautifully done, very nice looking. They almost, in the photo when I first saw them, I thought they were maybe, because of the color, I thought they were almost bamboo overlaid with ivory or bone or something. And then you open the pictures up and you realize it's all gold leaf on bronze. There's ripening fruit, all kinds of things. And these are very dark. It might have been a little better if they photographed it on some gray paper so the white background didn't wash it out so much. But there, you can see it here. The details are quite excellent on these, and it's a pair. And you don't see these in pairs very often. Pairs are always desirable, and these are extremely nice. There's minor rubbing around the rim, according to the condition report. They look fine. As you know, LeLand doesn't do much in the way of estimates. They sort of let the audience decide what things are worth. So they have all their lots have a listing. Basically, say the estimate is $50,000 to $25,000. Except in a few cases, they have one lot. They think, well, I don't know if they've changed the estimate up, but I think it's probably just going to do very well. But anyway, this is an extremely nice pair of bronzes, and I expect them to bring $1,000 to $1,500, maybe more. These are really good mixed metal pieces. And the Japanese excelled at mixed metal work, much more so than the Chinese. They did very, very fine work, in particular during the Meiji period. And then over to this. This thing is adorable. It's a Hirado puppy, a little okimono figure. It's stamped on the bottom. Animal figures in Hirado wear like this don't turn up very often, and he's a very cute little fellow. Beautiful whiskers. I like the nose on him. I like the eyes. You can see the hairs have been combed into the porcelain when they created him. These fat little feet on the bottom. This is a cute thing. It's a nice thing. If you're an animal lover, this is a great object. It measures 3.5 inches by 3 3/4 inches in size, so it's pretty good size. Nice little table item. It's an okimono, so it's going to be small. And they're dating it as a Meiji example. I don't have any argument with that. And it should bring 400 to 600 minimum, probably 5 to 7. It's a very nice object, though. It's a very, very nice piece of porcelain, and it looks to be in very good condition. All right, condition. All right, and then over to this, a silver Buddha. If you collect Buddhas, you don't see these in silver very often. They tested it with an XRF checker, and it came up as 75% pure silver, which is pretty typical for Japanese silver in many ways. It means it's going to be a little more durable than regular silver, which can be terribly soft, as you know. And so it weighs about 8 ounces. So it's got about $140 worth of silver in it at 75% roughly, and it measures 2.5 inches tall. But it's a great little figure. If you're a Buddha fan, you want to look into it. Now, it's signed on the bottom. They didn't get this broken down, but this is a very nice example. It's beautifully worked. It's got that exceptionally attractive running script on there on the bottom, and don't know what it says. I haven't tried to look it up or had anybody look it up for me, but it's a beautiful piece of silver. Just really, really wonderful, and it should bring $500-700. You have to decide that, but it's a nice example. And if you're a Buddha fan and you don't have a silver Buddha, this is your chance to get one. All right, and then over to this Sumida-gawa pottery figures. We don't talk a lot about Sumida-gawa. It's an interesting craft. It started very late in the Meiji period, around the 1890s, I guess it came about. And they use these brown clays. But this is a nifty one. It's about 18 inches long. It's a pretty big one. And it has frogs climbing up onto a boat. I like this a lot. I think this is a great little object. Be perfect to put on a shelf somewhere, because the frogs really make it interesting. There's probably it looks like there's probably a couple dozen frogs, porcelain frogs on here. Here it is, and so forth. And the boat is sort of rusticated. Some of the paint looks like it's peeling and stuff. I think some of that's intentional on here, but it's a very interesting piece. There's several pieces of Sumidagawa in the sale. This is just one of them. I think this is the most interesting. It looks like, I don't know what they're climbing into in the middle. Is this a giant lotus leaf in the middle or something? But terrific piece of pottery. And there are good books out there on this subject, by the way, because it's a late evolution in Japanese pottery. So there are people that collect just this, and this is a very collectible one. And I expect it to bring several $100, $400 or $500, maybe more. Maybe more. It could bring more than that because it is big. It's 18 inches in length. Spend what your heart tells you to spend. And then over to this. This is very nice. The Japanese had this extraordinary ability to do paintings in silk. And there's no painting on this at all. It's all woven with different colored strands and dyed strands of silk to create a painting. And from across the room, it looks like it was done maybe in charcoal or in graphite or something like that if you're looking at it. But when you pull it in, all of the little details here are woven silk. And they're quite phenomenal. They're really, really quite phenomenal. Notice the way they did the fence, all the weaving that went into this thing. This is a true art form. And the Chinese never did anything like this, if you're wondering. They just didn't. Here's a river. And they were able to do this very gentle shading of the water. This was done by a master silk weaver. In order to do this, to create the foam in the water using different colored threads of silk, and then adding rocks into the middle and so forth. You have this little like bamboo bridge going over the middle, and then the whole river is lined. This whole river is lined on both sides by a forest of bamboo trees. It's a very, very nice picture. And it's pretty good size, too. This is a decent sized picture. It measures 21 by 29 overall, and the site size is just a little bit smaller, as you can see. But it's all framed. It's ready to go. It's very attractive and very interesting. And, it should bring $1,000 to $1,500 anyway. It's a beautiful piece of work. It took hundreds of hours to make this. Hundreds and hundreds of hours. And this, like I said, I've seen a lot of these over the years, and some of them are fairly crude and rough. But in order to do this one, whoever the weaver was an incredibly talented, prominent silk weaver. Because doing paintings, creating a painting out of silk, and they just used maybe a little bit of tinted it, some of it with a little bit of dye here and there to add accents. But the silk itself was most of the color in it here, or dyed silks of different colors. Beautifully done. And then over to this. This is really neat. This is a Kiyomizu Rokubei. Was a very well-known potter during the Edo into the Meiji period. He did most of his work during the late Edo and Meiji era. And he's got this very nice little tea container, beautifully done, underglazed blue. And he was known for this very sort of rusticated painting technique that was very, very popular among the educated classes in Japan and so forth in the tea ceremony crowd. And this was a beautiful one, a little bit of fritting around the edge. But the rustic look of it and the unusual shape and so forth, it would draw a lot of people to collect his work. This should have a fair number of people after it by the time the sale happens. Right now, it's got 13 people watching it. They're dating it to the Edo period. That would be the later part of the Edo period, and it measures 2 and 5/16 inches tall. So it's about that big. It's not terribly big. These were very small, but very delicate. They're little gems, and this is a really nice one. So we'll see how that does. And then over to this, the staghorn carving of a lantern with eagles and monkeys. And this isn't terribly big. This is sort of a small one. It would look great on a side table in a room or in a cabinet. It measures about 7 or 8 inches tall, as I recall. 6 3/8 inches. It's fairly small, but meticulously done. And it's got a very nice patina to it. It's got a hawk on the top. And you can see, is that a hawk or an owl? They said he's a hawk. He looks well. I guess he is. He looks a little bit like an owl too. But the way the lantern is shaped and so forth, and down at the bottom you have all these monkeys climbing up it and so forth. Beautifully done. Different textures added to the horn when they carved it. This is not an ivory piece, so you don't have to worry about it. It's staghorn, which they did a lot of carving of staghorn in Japan. And this is a very, very nice one. And they're dating it, I suspect, to the Meiji period, the late Edo period, late Edo, early Meiji period. Yeah. Okay, that's what I would think. In the late Meiji period, they didn't do a lot of these, but in the 1850 to the end of the Edo period and into the very beginning of the Meiji, they did a lot of this kind of work, and they did scabbards and all kinds of things with horn. But a table lantern of this type, this is a pretty rare bird. We've all seen the horn, the carved horn, dagger scabbards and hilts and all that business. Those are fairly common. They made a lot of them. You don't see a lot in this form. You don't see a lot of them. So it's a pretty rare example, and it should do very well. If you're a Japanese collector, you should want to go after this. What they bring, it's so hard to say these days, but to my mind, if I was really interested in this, I'd probably be willing to go maybe $1,500 to $2,000 to get it, because it's rare. You're not going to see these. If you Google around, try to find another one. You might find one out there, but you're going to look for a while. They're quite rare. And then over to this is sort of the main event of the sale. This is an incredibly rare. I talked about this on Friday with some length, but this is an incredibly rare piece of Japanese bronze, and it was made and exhibited at the Chicago World's Columbian Exposition in 1893. That was a very famous show. Many of you have probably seen the slides and the stereo view cards that were done of this. This was a major event. And these exhibitions were done by inviting countries from around the world to have pavilions, and in those pavilions they would display their arts, things that they produced, and it was to educate the world about what things can be acquired from other countries. And it can include art, it can include textiles, it could include whatever they were making. And the Japanese had a significant booth at several of these expositions, including the Chicago one. And they sent over bronzes and works of art and big pieces, monumental pieces of Satsuma, but bronzes in particular were of great interest. And the story goes, and I'm going to repeat it in case you didn't see the show on Friday. At the end of when the Meiji Emperor came into power, he abolished the shogun, the shogunate. He abolished the samurai because they were getting a little out of hand. There was he was trying to unify the country, and the various warlords could be pretty disruptive. So they just dropped the hammer and said, no more of it. You can't walk around flashing your swords and all this sort of thing, because there was over 1 million samurai in Japan at that time. But the problem was after that was that all the workers, there were armies, legions of skilled craftsmen whose careers were based around keeping the samurai in their uniforms looking good, and all the accoutrements that you've seen when you see a samurai guy, and he's got the helmet and the body armor on, and the swords and the short knives and long knives and all the other stuff. That all had to be made, and the samurai would order their own. They all had their favorite workmen who they would hire to make the manuki and the subas. Some of them had huge numbers of subas, and they would interchange them depending on the event and so forth. We've all seen, these auctions where they just have dozens of subas, and you say, why are there so many subas? Well, these were all from basically left over by generations of samurai. And they would get stripped off the swords when the swords were no longer used or damaged or broken or whatever, and the subas would survive. So often you'll find very large collections of subas. But they did other work, and then suddenly they were all out of work, and they began to go and, well, what am I going to do? Some of them went to farming, some of them went to the cities to get jobs, but many of them were encouraged to stay in metalwork by the emperor and to build beautiful objects because they had the skill set. And they began producing these monumental bronzes. So they went from making little tiny delicate, very refined things, and using that ability to make small refined things, they did it on a larger scale. So they were highly refined, but a lot of it in one object. And this is one of those pieces. This is really one of those pieces. And it is spectacularly well done. Winged dragons on it, all the way down, elephant heads holding up the upper section, and then demons here, the Japanese demons that you see sometimes in wood carvings, flanking doorways and so forth, and down to the base here where you have the phoenixes holding up the base itself. And the details on this thing are really, really quite extraordinary. This is I'm going to spend some time on this because this is an extraordinary thing. There's the maker's mark on there. Hopping along over to here, here's the top of it, and you get some idea of how good the castings were. When you look at this, the reticulated top, this is a giant incense burner is what this thing is. And it's massive. Can you imagine putting some incense on that and lighting it in your house? And then you have this beautiful, beautifully worked bird on top and so forth. Another signature. There are the demons and so forth. Now, the thing is with this, it is big. It is very big. It is 78 inches tall. So it's 6.5 feet tall. This is a big piece of bronze. And it comes apart. This comes apart. They all do. They disassemble. But if you buy this, expect a shipping bill. Frankly, if I were to buy this, and I'm in Massachusetts, in the auction in North Carolina, I would rent a truck and go down there and get it myself. Because you don't want anything to happen to this. This is an amazing work of art, and make a weekend of it. Drive down, retrieve the thing, and come back from wherever you are. It's completely doable, and you're getting something that's absolutely extraordinary as long as you have a place to put it, because it is big. If you have a great room in your house or something really wonderful, it should bring, it deserves to bring 30 or 40,000, maybe more. It is an amazing. It's by Mayo Isuki, a well-known bronze worker, bronze caster, and it's just a great thing. That's all. I don't know what else to say about it. It's absolutely a great object. Even if you don't collect Japanese stuff, you think about what it took to put this together, how hard it was to make in such consistency and such quality, and then that extraordinary patina that only the Japanese really are good at. They put that warm, beautiful brown patina on there just right. It's got 6 bids. It's got 59 people watching it, and I'm hoping a museum or a very good collector buys it and maybe gives it to an institution later, because these pieces have been sort of overlooked in many ways. There was a sale of them at Christie's or Sotheby's a few years ago, I remember, and some of the pieces did very, very well. Some of them I think were way overestimated. I think they wanted to do the sale so badly they took excessive estimates and reserves on the pieces. But this is a very, very good example. Really great. All right, and then over to these 2 huge pieces of Satsuma. They're not a pair, but they're very close, obviously. They're very similar profiles. This one has dragons on the shoulders, and this one has masks and rings on it, but they're quite similar. And these are very powerfully done. These are not signed, but they are exceptional quality. I want to try to find a good detail shot here. Keep going there. You come in and look at the figures on this thing, the way the faces are done. They look like very fine paintings on paper. And this was the best of the Satsuma painters could paint like this. This was very, very good. I'm very surprised it isn't signed, because these are extraordinarily well done, and they're big. They're big. They're what are they, 58 inches tall or something? Hold on a second. 45 inches tall, not 58. That would be really huge. 45 inches tall. So they're just a hair under 4 feet tall. These are big pieces of pottery, but beautifully done, exceptional quality. If you've been thinking of springing for a couple of really good Satsuma jars, you might want to look into these. These are exceptionally well done, beautiful figures, nice colors in the background, good contrasting colors, and the enamels look like they're all in pretty good shape. And right now they're up to $275. I expect them to bring a few $1,000s, but these are very, very nice examples. And if you put them in a room, on each side of a fireplace, they're going to look just like a pair. They're going to look fantastic. And then this is a smaller one, another piece of great-looking Satsuma, and it's an interesting sort of ewer form with the loop handles at the top, and you have the immortal in the middle, with a very finely worked ground all the way to the bottom. And there's sort of interesting widened, flattened base that you don't often see on these. Usually they come down at more of an angle. This one sort of just comes down and spreads, and I kind of like it. And the lappets are nicely done, and I don't see any wear to it anywhere. The enamels appear to be in very, very good condition. And as I recall, this wasn't signed either. There's a woman on the other side. There she is. And this one measures about 11 inches tall. It's not a huge one. It's a more manageable size, as they say. Oh, no, it is marked on the bottom. There you go. Oh, it's marked by Fusan. Okay, it is marked. All right. The other one wasn't, I guess. But this, you can look this guy up in the Satsuma books. He's in there, and this is a very, very nice example. It will do well. This should bring $600 or $800 at least, maybe more. But if you're interested in Satsuma, these are some very nice examples. These are real good starter Satsumas. These are not the later ones that were made. All Satsuma was basically made for the export market. They were all made for foreign markets. That's why they started making them. They wanted to share their artwork and skill with the world. Sort of the same idea with the bronzes. So all Satsuma was really made for export. You won't go to Japan and find a lot of Satsuma wares around Japanese households. These were export products, sort of in the manner of, some of the 18th century Chinese and 19th century Chinese porcelain that was made. These were also export wares, but they're very, very fine. And they had some of the best enamelers in the country working on them. So you had these sort of legendary workshops that produced these. And Fusan was one of the well-known ones. And as you can see, they did very, very good work. And then over to this, another piece of Satsuma. This is a cool looking thing. This thing is big. This thing was it 18 inches, 18 and a half inches tall. It's a great big incense burner. I like the sort of dolphin dragons at the bottom, these creatures. And then up the side, you have the basin with boats and aquatic scenes and rising Mirren out of the ocean and so forth. And then phoenixes up above it and this very interesting looking top, so forth. Let's see if they got a better close-up of that. There, the wave pattern around the top. Here it is. Here it is. Wonderfully done. And you'll notice that the food lions are going down over the top. They're not facing up, they're facing down, so their feet are clamped into the waves, sort of going off the top of this thing. And then you have this sort of dolphin figure on the top again up here. I don't know if they're dolphins or dragons. They look like water dragons, but I love this very incredible effect they did with the lid, the layers of vertical waves coming up around it. Very, very imaginative workmanship. And there you can see it even better. There's the bottom. Apparently no mark on it, but boy, what an interesting piece of pottery. And it's got 3 bitters. It's got 17 watchers on it so far. But like I said, it's big, 18 and a half inches tall. It should do pretty well. This is a very decorative piece. Great colors, great conditioned, pleasing design. There's the food lion on top, his teeth coming out and everything. I like this a great deal. I like this a great deal. It's a very sculptural, very visual, nice thing. Should bring several $1,000s, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. All right. It does come apart, so it isn't a big deal to ship. And then the other piece in here is this very nice piece of Arita ware in the pattern of the koi fish. And as I mentioned this piece on Friday, I'm going to re-mention it because I think it's very nice. The sapphire blue on this is so intense. It's such an incredible, if you think about most of the Arita wares that you see that are in blue and white, they have a much softer blue. And when you look at the intensity of this cobalt on here, and you've seen this pattern before, you typically only see it in enamels, with colored enamels, and more often with a lighter background or a white background. And you have the koi coming through the waves. Here you have it on blue, on blue, on blue with a little bit of white. And I think it's very effective, and it's a bar brim charger, which is very subtle, but it adds to the attractiveness of it. I think because the interior is so detailed, you don't really notice consciously that it has also a shaped rim, but the shaped rim sort of pulls it together very nice visually, I think. And I think this is an awfully nice looking piece of porcelain. And it's, again, a Meiji period example. It measures 17 3/4 inches in diameter, so it's just a little under 18 inches. Should bring $500 to $700. It's a wonderful looking piece of blue and white. And then hopping along over to this monumental, there's quite a bit of cloisonne in here of this type. This is a huge one. This is the piece that's 58 inches. I got it confused with the other one. This is 58 inches tall. It's a giant piece of cloisonne, Meiji period, beautifully done with these wisteria at the top, and then a bit large flower peony blossoms at the bottom. And it seems to be in good shape. I don't see any mention or notice of any damage to it. But this is an enormous piece of cloisonne. Very, very attractive, very three-dimensional. When you look at the way they did the branches and so forth, the shading of them, they were so carefully done that they look like they're three-dimensional going into a dark background. Extremely attractive. And it is not signed as far as I know, but very fine quality. And what'll it bring? Well, it's up to $2,700 right now, so it's getting a lot of interest. This is a really good piece. There's other cloisonne in here. This is the biggest one, and big pieces are often of a lot of interest to people. Keep that in mind when you're thinking of leaving a bid on the giant bronze we just talked about. Big pieces can bring big money because they have a lot of visual impact, and they look good in big open spaces. This is a great piece. What'll it bring? I don't know. I've seen these in the past, and they can bring $5,000 to $8,000. So we'll see how this one does. But this is a very nice one, and the condition is good because once you get a dent or any real damage to cloisonne, that's sort of the end of the game for it, because cloisonne is almost, it's not impossible to fix, but it's incredibly expensive to repair because of the nature of the materials. You're using copper, and you've got enamels on copper, and heating and blending and all that is extremely difficult with cloisonne enamels once the piece has been fired and is done. All right, and then over to this, the Korean moon jar. This appears to be a 19th century example. Let's see, how big is this thing? I think it's 10 inches or so, 10 and 1/8 inches. Moon jars come in sort of there's sort of like an accepted category of sizes for moon jars, and they really range from about 10 inches up to whatever, 20 something inches in size. This one is 10 inches. It's a very nice size, but it's beautifully potted. It's got a very nice shape, and the glaze it's not a super glossy glaze. It has sort of a matte, it looks like sort of almost a matte surface to it, but it's got a sort of a very interesting, evocative, sort of a nice texture to it. These little spots and so forth. If you go over and look at it on the site, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But there's some very interesting texture to this glaze all the way down. It appears to be very nicely potted all the way through. I don't see any errors in the potting. The mouth is perfectly trimmed. The bottom of it looks good. Looks like an early 19th century example from the Joseon period. And it's got 50 people watching it. It's probably going to, I expect it to bring $5,000 to $10,000 anyway. Could bring more. It's a very attractive example. And old moon jars don't turn up very often. Even the new ones bring a lot of money. We've talked about it over on the Patreon side. I posted a couple of PDFs and some articles and things about Korean pottery recently. And there's that great one that now is at the Peabody Essex Museum that's made by a contemporary Korean potter, and it's enormous. And if it were to go to an auction these days, that particular artist is very well known. It would probably bring upwards of $300,000 or more dollars. Their contemporary potters make the best ones can make huge prices at auction. We've seen it over and over again. This is a nice one too, and it is 19th century. Beautifully done. And then over to this. This is interesting. If you're really interested in Korean pottery and you're interested in contemporary Korean pottery, you want to look at this. This is by Wang Chong-hee. She's a woman potter. She was born in 1927, so I don't know if she's even still alive or not. They say they don't have a date of death yet, but she was a very innovative potter, very influential in the Korean pottery ceramic scene, and she'd had a lot to do with the revitalization and the sort of renewed appreciation in Korean ceramics. Very influential. Her things are in museums. She has a number of pieces in the Korean National Museum collection, and she's incredibly skilled. And this is a beautiful tea caddy, or chaire, as they say in Japan. There's very sort of soft, almost a hint of green, but yellow, like a deep egg yolk yellow with a little green in it. I can't really describe the color, but it's a wonderful example, and it's got it looks like an ivory lid on it, which they often used on these chaires. And here's the bottom. You can see the wire cut lines on the bottom here. You see this area up here where they put the wire under and they pull it off the wheel by using a wire to cut it away. And you can see, if you come and look at it, you'll see all these lines. They look like rainbows on the bottom, and those are caused by using a wire to cut it off the wheel when she potted. And beautifully glazed. Here's the lid, the gold foiled ivory lid. This is a really nice thing. If you're looking for something that down the road is probably going to be very valuable, I suspect, this is it. This is a really good example, and she's highly recognized. This is not some nobody. This is one of the most she's one of the most well-known Korean potters of the 20th century and the 21st century, for that matter. And you can look her up. You can look her up on the internet. This one is coming from the Yale University Art Gallery collection. So that's the provenance. I was wondering where it came from, because her things don't turn up very often. But this is being sold by Yale, which means they probably have a few of them. I don't know what's going on at Yale, because they've been deaccessioning a lot of Asian art in the last few years. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe they're who knows at Yale? They're all insane there now, but they're going into something else apparently, and they're getting rid of a lot of their best Chinese stuff that they've sold off either in New York or elsewhere over the last few years. This is a very nice pot, though, and if you really like it, don't be afraid to spend a few $1,000s on it. All right, you may not get it, but that's sort of what you're looking at, I think. And then over here, a pair of Chinese cinnabar lacquered gourd shaped. These are little table boxes, but very deeply carved. They're dating them into the 18th century, and I haven't examined them, so I'm gonna have to take their word on it. They're, like I said, they shoot dark things against light backgrounds, and it makes seeing the details a bit difficult at times. These are awfully nice, and we have seen pieces like these before. There were some of these that turned up at one of the major auction houses a few years ago. They did very well, so we'll see how these do. I mean, like, they brought $15,000-$20,000, as I recall. These are very nice because they use different colored lacquers, greens, and it looks like green and maybe black, and then several shades of red. On these, and it's a pair of them, and they're pretty good size. They're not huge, so they're decent size. They're 4 3/4 inches in length, and about 3 inches wide, so they're about this big, but very, very nicely done. There's 33 people on them, and they could do very, very well. But if you like lacquer and you like boxes, these are nice, and you can Google them around. You can look around on the internet at the major auction houses, and you can find other examples of these. These are very, very good. All right, and then over to this, there's a Ming bronze, of course, a Kuan Yin figure, seated. It measures, I think, 10 inches, 10 1/4 inches tall, and it came from the collection of, who is it? Gustav and Carol Ferry in New Jersey and North Carolina. Don't know them, but they got a name in there anyway. Nicely done, and again, it's a little hard to see because of the light background. These dark things should be shot on gray paper with strong lights, and then you can really see the details. People get in the habit of using white paper, and they can wash out an object. You can see it okay, but they should use gradient gray paper in the background or something, because it makes the details hard here. But the surface on this looks very nice, so you could get a good piece here, I think, on this. This should bring a few $1,000s. This should bring four to 6,000, I would suspect, in its current state. We'll see. It's very hard right now to predict anything. The prices have been all over the map lately, depending on the category and the time of year for the auction and so forth. And this sale, of course, is coming in toward the end of summer, so a few people will be back on the scene bidding and having fun buying again. And then over to this big water pot, this was bought in I think it was bought in Thailand or something back in the 80s. There's a slip with a receipt with it. Says it's Ming. It's not. It's a Qing pot, and it looks like a mizusashi. Based on its size, it's 10 inches tall. It was bought in Bangkok in 1969, and it's very reminiscent of a mizusashi for the tea ceremony, with this nice lid on top. It is a water pot with all this calligraphy and script down the side. You'll have to send it out and have somebody translate it for you, but it's beautifully done. This is a very, very nice piece of porcelain, and let's see if we get a good look at it. And it's a 19th century example from what I'm seeing, but beautiful quality, and should bring $1,000 to $1,500, maybe more, because it's got the script all over it, and it's an unusual form. But it's in the form of a wooden bucket with that type of handle on top. You see that you see wooden buckets with wooden lids, and they have a very similar sort of rail handle on the top of the hole through the middle, and then side handles to pick it up, and so forth. So it's done pretty authentically to the shape of the original wooden ones. And then hopping along over to this, a nice pair. There's some very good Chinese export silver in the sale. This is a pair of export silver vases with enamels on them. Enameled silver is pretty rare stuff. There is a mark on the bottom, and if you want to look up and see who it is, you can go over to bid amount and go to the reference library and pull up the yellow book with all the Chinese silver marks on it, and go through it. You'll find a number of silver makers, in particular toward the end of the Qing dynasty, that were doing enamel work on silver. And there are good clear images of the marks on here, so you should be able to look them up. I suspect there they are, clear as a bell. So you can put them in there. You might be able to throw them in Google Lens and get some guidance on them, because they have that translate thing now in Google Lens. It's not terribly accurate, I'm going to warn you, because you get some crazy translations, but sometimes it isn't bad. At any rate, these will do pretty well. These are 10.5 inches tall, and they'll bring it should bring $2,000 to $3,000, maybe $4,000 for the pair. And then that's it. That was the last one. But it's an interesting sale. It's sort of an interesting small sale. It's 150, 180 lots. I forget how many items are in the sale. I should have checked it before. Let's see, how many lots are there in here? It won't be a long sale. It's about 140 lots, is it? Is that what it looks like? 145 lots, roughly. And there's some carpets in here at the end, some dragon cartons, Tibetan carpets. There's an Art Deco scatter rug that's rather cool. There's a big rug here with a giant dragon on it that's kind of nice. It's not a huge rug, though. It's a small rug, so you can put it almost anywhere. There are some case pieces of furniture in here, some nice Chinese stands. There's some Japanese display wooden stands in here. There's some contemporary Chinese paintings and so forth. There's a lot of stuff in the sale. I didn't go through it because I'd be here all day, but you can sort of scroll through it and see what I'm talking about. Robes, another piece of enamelware, more silver, some nice strips of silk and so forth, Fu Lions, so it's all in here. There's some good pieces. There's some early earthenware pieces, Han Dynasty and so forth. And there's the Korean pieces. There's 3 pieces of Korean ware in here. There's a Champlevé enamel bronze floor lamp, which is kind of cool if you want one for your house, and so forth. So do check it out. The auction is on the 21st of August, and I would really suggest you go to LeLand little site and open an account there for yourself. It really will save you money if you're going to spend some money. Because when you go to live auctioneers, by the time they get done adding on all their little transaction fees and all this other stuff, it can add quite a lot onto the final purchase price. And if you deal directly with the auction house, you also get on their mailing list, and you get more information. And it's always good to have a relationship with auction houses where they get to know you. It is an invaluable resource at times, and at good auction houses, you definitely want to get to know them. You want them to get to know you, what your tastes are. You can get on lists for things as they come in, and they'll work with you. A good auction house, LeLand Little, Bronx, Stairgal, all these places, they work with people who are active buyers through their company. They want to. I know we did when we ran auctions for years, and we had certain people that we inflexibly called on the telephone when we got certain things, and they were always very grateful. We'd say, hey, look, we got this. We know you collect those, and they would come right up. Rare type of rug, perhaps, or a type of American furniture, or a type of silver, whatever. But you don't get those relationships buying it on live auctioneers. You just don't. So if you're going to spend money, build a relationship with auction houses too. So register here. It only takes a couple of minutes to register on their site, and you're in. That's it. And then you can save the stuff on their page, and you can bid on there just like you can on live auctioneers. And you're going to save 5% on the transaction and get a relationship. So there's my speech. All right. Have a great week, and we'll see you later this week on Friday with the weekly video. But do check this out. And as summer comes to a close, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more auctions turning up. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.